Hey everybody, having an unboxing today. This is the UmiDigi F1. So I don't know much about this phone. I literally just got it. I don't know anything about the phone. So we'll be experiencing it together for the first time. So we'll see. It has a MediaTek 6771 chipset. It runs Android 9 apparently. 4 gigs RAM, 128 gigs of internal storage. 6.3 inch 1080p display. So going by the specs, this is a mid-tier entry-level device. I do like UmiDigi's packaging. They generally always look very nice, very presentable. Building a great phone is hard enough, so building a great phone on a budget should be infinitely more difficult. Big thanks to all who made this super phone super awesome by contributing valuable time in developing hardware, software development. Basically, it's one big thank you card. I like this case. So there are a couple of things I really like about UmiDigi products right off the bat. The packaging looks nice, and then I really like the case that comes with the phone. It's not like a cheap jelly plastic case. It's not real leather, but it feels a bit like leather. Pretty basic setup. Charging brick, and then you have the red and black cable. USB-C, I hope. Yes, it is USB-C. SIM ejector tool, paper. Alright, pretty basic setup. Let's take off the case and see how the phone looks like. Case. This is pretty matte black. This is not glass, so this is like plastic. It's very plasticky, actually. Okay, so it has a screen protector on there, but I accidentally removed it already because I was trying to peel the outer layer. So we see that the phone has a water drop notch and a tiny sliver of an earpiece and a little bit of a chin. Doesn't look that bad for a entry-level device from a smaller Shenzhen brand. Oh, okay, the screen brightness is very high. Anyway, you guys know the drill. I'm gonna set it up, play with it, and I'll be back. Alright guys, I'm back with the UmiDigi F1. So let's talk specs first. So first things first, you have a 6.3 inch display with a 2340 by 1080 resolution. So even though this resolution isn't that high, it's just a little bit above 1080p, the display looks great. Obviously indoors it looks fine, but the colors, look at how lively it looks. It looks a little bit the contrast has been dialed up. It looks a bit punchy. But even outside, which I took the phone out earlier on an overcast day with the sun setting, I could still see the screen. So that means max brightness is pretty good. It's not as good as a Samsung Galaxy OLED panel, obviously, but for an LCD panel from a small Chinese brand that's selling this phone at a budget price, no complaints whatsoever about this display. Looks great. So chipset inside is a Helio P60 with a Mali G72 GPU. So that's not the most powerful chipset out there, obviously, but it's respectable. So you look at on Geekbench, it scored a 5769 multi-core and a 1503 single core. These numbers are very close to the Snapdragon 675 chipset that I'm currently testing in the Vivo V15 Pro. So around the back, you have a dual camera setup. Dual, because I'm pretty sure the second camera is fake again. But the main camera is good, surprisingly really good. It's a 16 megapixel f1.7 lens that can actually pull in pretty good lighting even at night. I'll show you later in the photo samples. And again, the second camera, UmiDigi is advertising an 8 megapixel depth sensor, but I've seen nothing that has convinced me because I took some test bokeh shots and there was no edge detection, no nothing. So this device runs on 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of internal storage. You do get dual SIM support, and it does support micro SD card. We'll go through the hardware really quick. You have a USB-C port down here with a headphone jack and a single bottom fine speaker grill. The left side of the phone is completely clean. The top is mostly clean too, other than a little hole for a mic. On the right side, you have a volume rocker and a power button. Everything is pretty clicky. So on the back, you have a hardware fingerprint reader. If you manage to get your finger on it exactly, it will unlock right away. But you see, I just had a mistake right now because this area is actually a little bit small. So I would say every 10 times there's like one time where my finger missed it and it's not unlocking. But when you get your finger on it properly, it does unlock very fast. I would say this plastic build is a little bit disappointing because it feels kind of cheap. And you know, this phone, UmiDigi selling for $200 US, so it's not like it's that little. I would prefer to see something a little bit more premium. But the front of the phone looks great. You see you have a water drop notch and a really slim earpiece. And the bottom chin is actually quite small. I mean, yeah, it's not like an iPhone, it's not as good as an iPhone 10, but even compared to the Vivo V15 Pro, which I have here, you see the bottom chin are comparable. And even compared to the LG V40, which is a lot more expensive, it's a proper flagship, you see the chin's about the same size. So again, for a relatively small Chinese brand like UmiDigi to craft a front that looks like this for just $200, I think that's pretty impressive. Like, this is a phone that if you hold just from the front, it looks just as good as anything out there. The only area where it's a little bit inferior is the back. So that's not all. There's two more reasons to really consider this phone. The first is the battery inside is huge. It's a 5,150 milliamp hour battery, 5150. I ran a battery test on Geekbench. It scored medium in terms of battery discharge, but in terms of battery endurance, it's actually really good. So I basically let the test run for 33 minutes, and it was very heavy processing, and it only dropped 3% in 33 minutes. And overall, I've been using this phone on and off for like 6-7 hours now, and battery percentage is still at 42%. And when I started using the phone, it wasn't at 100, it was at like 65. So the second reason I like the phone, the software experience is really good. This phone runs Android 9 out of the box, so that's a win. You don't even get that from an LG or Samsung phone right now. And the software is very clean. You see you have an app tray. Not much bloatware, like this is kind of like a bloat app, but not much. Very clean software setup. UmiDigi is calling this stock Android, but it's actually not quite stock Android because UmiDigi has installed some of its touches in there, which I don't mind. So now let's talk about the camera. As I mentioned earlier, the camera is surprisingly impressive. Like, check out this shot right here. Dynamic range is actually really good for a device at this price range, because this is a tough shot. This is, the sun is setting, so the sun is shining right into the camera. So usually in an inferior camera, this part will be really dark. It will be completely like covered in shadows. But this phone managed to produce an image that's well balanced. You're able to see the people walking down here still, see the details on the sidewalk, see the details of the building, but at the same time the sky isn't overexposed. You can still see the cloud, you can still see a little bit of the sunset. Likewise right here, dynamic range is pretty solid right here. In fact, the scene when I took this was quite dark, so the fact that this camera was able to pull in more light and make it look lighter than it is impressive. And now when it gets fully dark, the image is again pretty impressive for this price range. Like, check this out. Like, of course this can't compare to something shot with an iPhone or a Pixel or a Huawei, but this phone is $200 and the brand is UmiDigi. So considering that, I think these photos turn out quite nice. Like, you see, there's not that much noise. In general, it's just a pretty well lit, pretty vibrant shot. Now likewise for videos, now there's no stabilization, so you notice that when I'm walking, it's jerky as hell. You see how jerky that is? But check out the colors. The colors look great, right? And I'm gonna stop right here, and you see the details is pretty good. That was 1080p footage. This phone cannot shoot higher than 1080p 30. Now selfie video, same thing. I'm quite impressed by this too. You see the background is clear. It's not like over or underexposed. For this kind of entry level phone, you can still see a light in the back. You can hear me pretty well. I think that selfie video, it's impressive too. And then here's another selfie for reference. And then here's a low light image. So the camera overexposed these lights here a little bit, but other than these parts, the rest of the image looks pretty good. This is a really respectable shot. And if I want, I can dial down exposure to fix that overblown lights too. Now there's one weakness to the camera, is that it just cannot focus that fast, especially when I'm trying to take macro shots. In fact, this camera refused to focus on this flower because it was too close to me. I needed to back up just to get a proper shot, and even then it's not that good an image. So macro shots is the weakness of this phone. Low light photography in a pitch black room, it's solid, but you know, obviously can't compare it to a flagship phone. As I mentioned, the bokeh camera, it's really disappointing. Like, this is the bokeh shot. I don't really see any edge detection at all. I mean, a little bit, but Groot's face is a little bit lacking in details, and the edge detection around him is just not good. So I just don't know what the second camera does. Alright, now you know what we gotta do. We gotta do a video speaker test. So this phone only has one bottom fine speaker down below, so you can muffle the sound really easily. This is 70% volume. We'll go up to max volume. So yeah, the speakers are just okay. At max volume, there's like very empty, hollow sound. There's almost no bass, but at least it's not distorted. At least you can still hear the vocals clearly. So that's about it for the UmiDigi F1. UmiDigi's selling this phone for $200 US. It's a decent deal. It's not the greatest deal because we have brands like Realme and Honor and Poco out there now selling phones for just about the same price, and those phones are a little bit more polished. But UmiDigi offers some stuff that those brands do not. For example, the battery, 5,150 milliamp hours, so definitely long enough to last you all day. This phone also supports NFC, and I think the design's actually pretty good. Other than the plastic bag, I think the front actually looks pretty good. It looks better than the Poco phone or the Honor Play, in my opinion. And the software experience is obviously much better too. I like this software better than Huawei's EMUI. So that's it for now. I'm gonna have a lot more videos coming up starting next week. Probably after the 20th. On the 20th, I'm gonna have the Vivo V15 Pro video, and after that, from the 24th on, I'm gonna have videos on the LG G8, the Huawei folding phone, Xiaomi Mi 9, Vivo Apex 2019, probably a phone from Oppo, and then maybe something from OnePlus too. We'll see. But I'm going to be at Mobile World Congress. There's going to be a lot of content. So if you're interested, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'm also on Instagram. My name on Instagram is the same as this channel, Ben's Gadget Reviews, one word. So look me up and follow if you want, man. I appreciate the support. Thanks for watching.